This is a production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to this edition of Charlotte Cooks. I'm Chef Pamela Roberts, and I'm so glad you're here with me today. We are going to be making a barley lentil black bean burger, and that's going to be so delicious. Sometimes you go to the restaurants and things and you see these wonderful veggie burgers that they put beets in, they come out looking like raw burgers and stuff like that. I'm like, oh no, oh no. So I developed this recipe that incorporates a lot of really nice healthy grains, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use. First of all, we're going to be using barley, and I've cooked this barley. You can buy pearled barley. And we're going to be using probably about, this looks like about 2 cups of barley. And whenever I cook my barley, I always put carrots in it because the carrots give it a beautiful sweetness. And they also add a tremendous value to this black bean burger. So I'm just going to drop this stuff into the bowl. And the next ingredient I'm using are lentils. Now the lentils that I've chosen are French green lentils, and the reason I like French green lentils is because these are cooked. The barley's cooked also. Everything I'm using today has already been cooked and processed. So if you really don't know how to cook barley and you really don't know how to cook the lentils, just drop me an email and I'll send you the instructions. But I like to use French green lentils in dishes where I want to see what the lentils will look like. And the French green lentils will hold their shape after they're cooked. As you can see, they stay nice and lentil looking, as opposed to the brown lentils that usually just fall apart and turn into mush, or, you know, that's not really popular for lentil soup because they just mush out, okay? So I'm gonna drop all that in there. They already smell good. Whenever I cook my lentils, I always add a little bit of bay leaf and herbs de Provence, garlic, and onions in them, so they just have this fantastic aroma while they're cooking. Next thing I'm gonna be using are black beans. The black beans I'm using here are already pre-cooked. Now, you have a couple of options when you're choosing your black beans. You can choose dried black beans, and if you're going to choose the dried black bean option, I would highly suggest you soak them overnight and then cook them in the morning. And the reason we soak them overnight is so that the bean itself, when it's really nice and dry, dehydrated, it needs some time to absorb that water and become fully hydrated. And it really helps with the politely say, the gassy issue that beans can have. If you soak them overnight, it helps dispel some of those enzymes that cause some of the gassy issues. It's not going to solve it completely, but so we're going to put these in here, and now we're going to take a spatula, we're going to mix it all up. I'm just going to mix this mixture all together, and all of these things are already cooked. Now, if you have a rice cooker at home, which I highly suggest, if you don't have a rice cooker at home, go get one, because it is one of the easiest, best things that you can do for cooking your grains, just making it total no-brainer at all for cooking grains. If you have an issue with your rice or your barley or anything like that burning on you, then I would suggest you go and get a rice cooker because you'll solve that problem. So now we're going to mix all this up, and the other thing we're going to add to this mixture are some chopped onions and a couple of chopped scallions, okay? And I'm actually going to put these directly in the Robot because I want them to be all chopped up with the mixture. We're going to take half of this, and we're going to put this in the Robot or the food processor if you don't have a Robot at home. And let's see, big spoon here. It's going to help me get it in here. Now, what we're trying to do here, I want to get those big carrot chunks in here because I want those all chopped up. I don't want those big carrots in my burgers. There we go. Get in here. There's a whole bunch of little carrots. Come on, guys. Okay, just make sure you got all your carrots out of there. And then you're going to take your onions. You're going to drop your onions in here. Use as many onions as you like. I like onions in my burgers. I also like raw onions, so I'll put raw onion on the top. Yum. Put your lid on. And you're going to process this until it's smooth. Now, it doesn't have to be completely smooth. You can process it till it's a little bit chunky. And you're going to need a little bit of water to go with this, okay? So here it goes, bunch of noise. And I'm going to get my spatula and I'm going to stir it down just a little bit. And the reason I leave some of the grains whole is so that I can see what some of the grains are. A little bit more water, I think. There we go. Loosen that up. Yeah, there we go. That's just fine. See? If I can get this off of here. See the texture? And what you want here, this is what you want. It can be slightly chunky, but you want it to be pretty much broken up, especially those carrots. Make sure you get those carrots all broken up, okay? So now, we're gonna bring this over here, and we're gonna drop it into our bowl, and we're gonna mix it up all together. Now, a couple little tricks here. Notice my finger. My finger is up underneath here, and what that's doing is that's holding that blade in. So when I turn this over, it's not gonna have the blade falling into my food here. Okay, you can also take the blade out after you get most of the food out and just put it in the sink. Remember, you got to treat that blade as a knife because it is sharp, 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 sharp. Okay, so now we're going to put this in here, get it all out. And remember, guys, when you're cooking your grains, make sure you season them. Put salt, pepper, garlic, onions, herbs, whatever you want to in them. And the reason I say that is because it's going to save you from having to season the burgers later, okay? Because if everything goes in and it's got a wonderful flavor to it already, you shouldn't need to add any extra seasonings. Your mixture is going to be a little on the stiff side, that's okay. But you want to get it all mixed in so you can still see some of your whole beans and some of your puree and some of your barley. And if you looked close, because the lentils are about the same color, you'd still see the lentils that still held their shape, okay? So now, and the reason I like to do it, you could puree the whole thing if you wanted to. The reason I don't is because I like to see the grains whole. I like to see them. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is get a scoop. Scoop will allow you to make sure that you are going to have the same size. It keeps you from having a big one, a little one, and sizes all over the place, okay? So I'm going to use a scoop, and I've got some flour here, and I'm just going to drop them in here like this. And this will make probably about 9 burgers. If you kept them this size, you want bigger, smaller, whatever, you can certainly do that. Okay, and so while I'm doing this, I'm going to get my pan hot so I can start sauteing them. Okay, finish this up later. So I'm going to get my pan hot now, and while that's heating up, I'm going to take these things, I'm going to roll them around in my flour. Ah, I'm getting it everywhere, that's okay. Okay, so flatten them out, just a little bit. So, you know, you don't even need to add any eggs to this, okay? Just the puree and a little bit of water. If you wanted to use vegetable broth, you certainly could use vegetable broth, okay? And just do like this. Get them nice and coated with the flour, okay? The reason you see I'm doing this with my hands, the reason I'm doing this is because it helps compress it, and it also helps make sure that they're all going to be around the same diameter. Now, one thing you could look at is the diameter of your bun, make them the same size as your bun, okay? All right, just 2 more to go here, and then I'm going to get them in my pan. You want to make sure you put a nice flour all the way around them. And what the flour does is it really helps them to stop really from sticking on the bottom of the pan when you're cooking them. But also what it does is it allows them to get a golden brown on the outside so that you can get, you know, the look of a good cooked burger. Okay? All right, that's ready. Dust off your hands a little bit. There's a towel I'm going to use. Flour everywhere. All right, I'm going to get my pan hot and put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan, just enough to barely coat the bottom. Okay, we're not deep frying here. And then I'm going to take my burgers, pat the flour off, and drop them in. Okay? One thing you want to hear when you put your burgers in a pan is a sizzle. If you don't hear a sizzle, your pan's not hot enough. Okay? Just pat them dry because you don't really want to have a whole lot of flour on there. Just see that reaction there? I almost burnt my finger. Oh, be careful. Okay? That's all I'm going to fit in this pan, so that's all. I'll cook these off later. All right. So, woohoo, look at all that flour. While these are sauteing, the next thing I want to do is I want to toast my buns. So I'm going to get some buns. You can put them through a toaster if you have a toaster that works. That's great. Sometimes buns are a little bit too big to go in the toaster. But all I'm going to do with these is I'm going to open them up. I've got a couple of whole wheat buns, a couple of onion buns, a little bit of oil on them. This is olive oil. It's a nice light olive oil. Rub it around a little bit just to add a little bit of moisture. If you wanted to use butter, yeah, use butter. If you want to use coconut oil, you can. But let's see, let's take the bottom and the top match. Just put it down in your pan like that, okay? Put it on low heat. And that's going to get that bun nice and warm, and it's going to make it nice and tender as well, okay? And maybe give it a little bit of a toast, okay? So that's going to go there. Now, I want to watch our burgers. We're going to get them golden brown on each side. That should take maybe about, let's say, 3 to 4 minutes each side, okay? So we're going to watch them cook. So one thing you want to make sure of while you're cooking these is just make sure your pan isn't so hot that when you put them in that everything burns and it gets black. A little bit of golden brown is fine. A lot of golden brown is fine. Black, not so much, okay? I'm going to give this a test and just see where it is. See that golden brown? That's what you're looking for. See that golden brown? Okay. That's what you're looking for right there. And you can see that the heat's not really that hot. See? And you can tell that the flour is doing a really nice job in helping that golden brown happen as well. Okay? Now keep an eye on the bottom of your pan. If you need to add a little bit more oil, you can. But just a little bit. That's why I like keeping my oil in a squirt bottle. All right. Cook them slow and low. Okay. Well, while these are cooking, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the difference of lentils, and I've mentioned black beans if they were dried on how to soak them. I'm going to show you how to do that, okay? But I did mention that we were talking about using some French green lentils and how they don't fall apart. And these are the French green lentils in their raw state. Aren't they beautiful? They've got almost like a blue-green color to them. And then these are the traditional brown lentils. These are the ones that when you have lentil soup, they make lentil soup out of them, and they all fall apart. They don't hold the lentil shape, okay? And so these are the ones that do that. Now this is another kind of lentil. This is called a red crimson lentil, and this is almost like a yellow pea, but it is a lentil. They cook up and they also hold their shape a little bit, okay? They will fall apart a little bit, but not as much as those lentils, and they don't hold their shape as much as these lentils. And if you looked really closely, you could see that these lentils were already cracked in half, and these lentils are still whole. And I think that I suspect, has a whole lot to do with when they fall apart and when they stay together while they're being cooked. Now let's talk about some black beans. Now, as I mentioned, you can get the black beans out of a can, or you can use the black beans that are dried like these are. Now, something you have to remember, when you're using black beans that are dried, one of the most important things you have to do is sift through them. What are you looking for? You're looking for little stones. You're looking for little black, little pieces of broken bean. If you noticed in the beans that I used for the burgers, none of the beans are really broken apart. You didn't see any of these white pieces on the inside of the bean. But you want to look through there. And look, there's even a green one in there. I don't know how that got in there. But this is what you're looking for, okay? You just want to look for stuff like this, pull those out, and then how are you going to soak it? Most importantly, when you're doing your beans, whether you're doing dried beans, whether they're black beans, red beans, purple beans, green beans, I don't care what. If they're a dried bean, if they're lentil or whatever, you've always got to double check them for little tiny stones, okay? Believe it or not, stones, rocks, yeah. Break your teeth kind of things. So you want to make sure those are out. So all you're going to do now is just going to get a container that's much deeper, much larger than the beans themselves. Drop those in there. And you're going to get some water in here. When you put the water in there, you're going to want to make sure that you've got plenty of water, not just a little bit covering the beans, a lot covering the beans. Because these things are going to sit there now overnight, and they're going to slowly rehydrate. They have a little hole in the little center of the bean, See if I can find one here. Right here in the center of the bean. They have a little tiny hole in there where that's going to allow the moisture to seep in slowly overnight. And that's going to help soften the bean up so it cooks quicker. Now, you can take these beans and you can put them in a pot of water and bring it to a boil and simmer it, but it'll take hours and hours and hours for them to get soft. Once these are done and soaked, what you can do is put them in water and simmer them. They should be done in about an hour. Yeah, crock pot is also good, okay? So that's all you have to do. The biggest thing here to make sure you do is add enough water to cover it by at least 2 inches, okay? And if you do this in the middle of the afternoon, before you go to bed, double check it and make sure it doesn't need more water, okay? If it does, just add more water to it. That's all you have to do, okay? So now let's get back to our burgers. Now, you could put these on the grill. If you wanted to put them on the grill, I'd make sure that you use one of those grids, not just directly on the grill itself, but make sure you have one of those grids like you use for grilling vegetables or something like that, because I think that would really help keep them, just in case the grids on the grill might try to break the burger apart, because remember, there's no eggs in this to hold it together. What's holding it together is basically the pureed vegetables, okay? So you want to make sure that you don't have it unsupported, because they are going to be a little delicate. Check my buns over here, see if they're, see, getting nice and toasty, so I'm going to turn the other side over. That one's not quite ready yet. No, on this pan, I've just got this pan on low. Okay, just put it on low. It's nice and toasty. That one's nice and almost toasty. Check your burgers. That one can go a little bit more on that side. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about some of these ingredients. If you wanted to put something else in these, like some people like jalapenos, some people like to put cheese inside of them. You can also put cheese on top of them, okay? But I'm going to put one together here that's going to be quite yummy and scrumptious delicious. Put them together just like you would any other burger that you're cooking, okay? You could use, well, golly, traditional burger flavorings are things like ketchup, mustard, onion, lettuce, tomato. But what about using some blue cheese and arugula? What about sauteed mushrooms? That'd be yummy too, wouldn't it? So that's what we're going to do with some of these. I want to show you in just a second. As soon as these are all done, we'll be plating them up. All right, how are you going to know when your burger is done? Well, because everything is already cooked on the inside, it's basically just reheating the vegetables, okay? So when they're golden brown on both sides, you see this is happening quite nicely now. I'm going to turn my heat down so they don't continue to burn. They're beautiful. They're really nicely done now. Look at that. Nicely done. The way you can tell if they're done or not is just make sure that you got golden brown on the outside and give the little tops a little feel, and they should feel plenty hot, okay? And once they're plenty hot, we're going to decorate our buns. So let's go see what we got going on over here. We've got a toasty bun here. On this one, I think I'm going to put a little bit of mayonnaise on the bottom. Just a little bit. Not a lot. Take my bun and I'm going to put him on top. My bun. Take my bun and put my burger on top. I'm going to turn these off now because these are ready. They shouldn't take that long to cook. Maybe maximum of 6 minutes. Put that on the burger bun. Let me see here. Center that on there. There you go. Now I'm going to top this one with some sauteed mushrooms that are nice and warm. Some nice sauteed mushrooms on there. You can take a little bit of fresh arugula. Put a little bit of fresh arugula on the top. There we go. And it's falling all down, but that's okay. Eating a burger, that's the bottom. Eating a burger has never been what you'd call the most easiest thing in the world to do. My son always calls it a sloppy meal because you get really sloppy. I'm putting a little mustard on this. Putting that right on top. Doesn't that look delicious? On this one, I'm going to put a little bit of mustard on the bottom. I'm going to make this one just like a really traditional hamburger. Mustard on the bottom, a little bit of mayonnaise on the bottom. We're going to put a burger on top of there. We're going to put some ketchup on top of there. Now, I don't know about you, but I like a lot of ketchup on mine. And that's not what I'd call a lot. And I'm going to add a couple pickles to this one. Actually, put a couple pickles on here. Yum. Now these are spicy pickles. You could tell by the hot peppers in them. And they got the nice wavy cuts. Then I'm going to put some blue cheese on top of it. How many of y'all out there like blue cheese? Let's put a little bit of blue cheese. I'm going to crumble it on there so it's a little bit smaller and it fits a little better. There we go. There we go. And then I have what I call my sandwich setups over here, which is a nice leaf of lettuce, a nice slice of onion. That's a lot of onion, but that's okay. I'm going to take that onion apart. I'm going to put this on here like this. Put a couple pieces of the onion rings on top of here. And the top of my bun. Where's my bun? Here it is. Top of my bun. Ah, nice and toasty. Put some mayonnaise on that. Decorate that up. Now, in order to take these to the table, I'm going to add a little skewer on there just to make it a little bit more decorative. And what I have skewered on here is a cherry tomato and just a little pepperoncini, because I think it makes it look really kind of fun. And it's a nice little condiment to go along with your burgers. Okay? Now, let me get this out of the way and I bring my platter up here. Here's a serving suggestion. You can take all your condiments and put them out so everybody can decorate their own burgers however they want. I'm going to bring my platter up. In the middle of my platter, I have loaded it up with, what do you look at that? Sweet potato fries. Aren't they awesome? And see, I've got all these burgers done here, so I'm going to take them and I'm going to put my garnish on there. Now, I'm telling you, if you guys do this with your garnish, make sure you do this just before you serve it, because you can see some of the pickle liquid will leak out of your pepperoncini or whatever it is you decide to choose. So if you've got something like soggy, like a pickle or something, make sure that either it's dried off or you put it on just before you put it up to serve, okay? And so here you go. We can put these up. Take a look at our platter of black bean burgers. And here we've got all of our accompaniments on the side. We've got these two that are already decorated. We have the arugula, mushroom, and we also have one with blue cheese and onions on there. Lovely, lovely, lovely. These are really, really delicious burgers. I really hope you decide to try one. And look at that. Does it look like much different than a regular meat burger? It's got wonderful flavor, nice, rich, depth flavor. It's very, very good. And something else you can do with these is you can chop up mushrooms and put mushrooms inside of them too if you really like to have mushrooms on the inside. If you like the mushroom flavor, I think it's a good thing to do. It also provides a little bit of moisture, because sometimes your bean burgers can be a little bit what you call on the dry side. And so add a little bit of water, add a little bit of mushroom to it if you like, but you know, typically you don't need to put an egg in there to hold it together. And you see they're holding together just fine, and we didn't have any eggs in there at all. And I hope you try them, because I think this is going to be a dynamite dish for you. Now you can always freeze whatever leftover black bean mixture you have. You don't have to worry about using it all at once. And if you have any leftover burgers or you patty them up and you don't have them cooked, freeze them. They'll last. There's no reason you can't freeze them and then cook them later. Thanks for watching this episode of Charlotte Cooks. You can get our recipes on our website, pbscharlotte.org. And if you'd like to contact me, show suggestions or whatever, my email is Pamela, Pamela.Roberts, Roberts, @cpcc.edu. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time on Charlotte Cooks. Thank you for watching.
A production of WTVI PBS Charlotte.